Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin, and today we're here to give our thoughts, our opinions, our comments, our questions, our concerns on M. Night Shyamalan's movie, Trap. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optix. Again, that is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, what's going on? I feel like it's been a while since we recorded together. I think one of our last episodes, Mike joined us, but what's been going on with you lately?
Yeah, it's been a little over a week, it looks like, since we've hopped on, but yeah, things have been pretty good. I've been playing some Detroit Become Human lately. It's a really good game. I'm almost done with it.
Oh, yeah, I did pick that up as well. I have been diving back into my Nintendo Switch, at least for now. I'm trying to get through my game catalog in a respectable pace so I can get back to PC gaming. But I recently beat Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. I will never belittle side-scrolling platformers like that ever again. Devin, it was very tough.
Yeah, they can get you.
It's not like your average Mario side-scroller. I mean, some of the Mario games are really tough, but like Donkey Kong is always oof. But yeah, I had a great time with it, though. It's a fantastic game, and I'm on to Metroid Prime Remastered. So I just started that a few days ago. Again, I'm just casually playing these games. It's not like I'm really going balls to the wall. Now, when I dive back into Pokemon, that's a whole different story. But I'm glad that you are enjoying Detroit Become Human. It is a phenomenal game. I've been meaning to get back into that.
I'm surprised it hasn't been announced as a movie yet, like Until Dawn did.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Until Dawn was the next Sony movie. I feel like that would have worked better as a series now that I think a little bit more about it. But I guess, Sony's good with The Last of Us altogether. I guess Until Dawn is kind of just like a one-stop thing. You know what? Maybe it is better that it's a movie because I don't even know. But yeah, it's very interesting that that's the IP that they're headed towards. I thought that they would have been focusing on finding, was it Horizon Zero Dawn, like a new home?
Yeah, they got to put that everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah, that's very true. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm very excited for that as well. But yeah, Detroit Become Human could be a great one. I'm actually surprised they haven't made Mass Effect into one either, because that's phenomenal. But you have to do that right. Like 1,000%. But I don't know. Maybe one day they will do Detroit Become Human. Any directors come in mind if they ever did a movie? Anyone you'd like to see direct Detroit Become Human film?
I mean, he doesn't have a great record with sci-fi, but I might give M. Night a shot.
I thought you were going to say Zack Snyder.
No, that would be a lot of slow motion. There's some slow motion in that game, but not a whole lot.
I was actually thinking Ridley Scott. He's kind of dabbled. Actually, he has dabbled in that world when it comes to androids and cyborgs in more than one movie franchise already with Alien and Blade Runner. So yeah. I think he could do a great job with it. Or Denis Villeneuve. I think it'd be great as well. But honestly, an M. Night sci-fi movie does not sound half bad. And honestly, I would be there for it. I would definitely be there for it.
I feel like I'm there for M. Night, whatever he does. It just feels right.
Honestly, for better or for worse, you never know what you're going to get with M. Night. He's a coin flip director. Not saying that he's a bad director by any means. It's just
he goes for it.
Yeah, he goes for it. He lives for it. And it's even if there's a movie of his that you do not enjoy, I always like, I didn't care for Old all that much, but I love the premise. And I was like, he really knows how to set people up for going to watch his films. And I think Trap, which we're talking about here today, does a phenomenal job of that as well. I've been hearing some pretty good buzz, some interesting takes here and there for sure. A lot of nepotism backlash, which is kind of weird because, I didn't know M. Night Shyamalan's relatives were the only ones, dealing in Hollywood outside of himself. I was like, oh my gosh, like he's the only celebrity that has other relatives also in the same industry.
I think it's a little defensible too, because he produces all of his own stuff. Like, he puts all the money forward himself, so it's kind of different. It's not like he's like taking over a studio and having them hire his family. It's kind of like a family business in that way.
I like that frame of reference. I like that state of mind for sure. Yeah, that is very true. He literally puts his heart and soul and finances into his own movies. And, for better or for worse, I would honestly say that they all work out. Except for Glass. We're not going to talk about Glass.
Yeah, that was probably the roughest one lately.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. But as we have mentioned here today, we're going to be giving our spoiler-free thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. We're not going to be getting into the twists of the movie. We want people to go see this in theaters because it is an M. Night film, and it is always a fun time, no matter what movie it is. I would say, like, again, I keep saying for better or for worse, and I know we just ragged on Glass, but there were still interesting concepts there. Like, I really like how he's just able to rope you in no matter what it is. And he continues to do that, in my opinion, with Trap. But without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Trap.
Bathroom.
Okay, Dad.
What's with all the police everywhere? I'm not supposed to tell. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around chopping people up? The feds heard that he's gonna be here today. So they set up a trap for him. This whole concert? It's a trap. Watching all the exits, they're checking everyone that leaves. There's no way to get out of here. I've never felt this before. I feel out of control. Shoot left. Where should I put her?
Thank you.
This individual that we're searching for won't panic. He's realized he can't get out. He's going to try to cause chaos.
Dad, what are you doing? You're acting weird.
This dude is next level insane.
What's happening?
I think you're looking for me. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Sorry.
How you all doing? You having fun?
Woo!
Come closer.
What's going on, Daddy?
Open the goddamn door! I can't get away. I can't stop. I'll just do this one last one. Enjoy the rest of the concert.
And we are back with our spoiler-free review again of M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. This film is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the man, the myth, the legend himself, and stars Josh Hartnett, Ariel Donahue, and Salika Shyamalan, one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters. He has 3 daughters, apparently. And his other daughter, I'm blanking on her name. She was the director for Watchers, or The Watchers, that movie that came out with, is it Dakota Fanning, I think it was?
Yeah, never ended up seeing that one because of the reviews that were coming out, unfortunately. It was Ishana Shyamalan. Okay, so she directed Watchers, or The Watchers. I'm definitely going to check that out because that's Warner Brothers as well. So it's definitely going to hit Max if it hasn't already. Or HBO Max, I should say. I should stop calling it Max. Yeah, it should eventually.
Definitely. But we're going to get into the nitty gritty of this film. I'm going to pass it over to Devin so we can give his initial reactions to M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
Yeah, going into this one, like you mentioned, there's been a lot of discussion and discourse around, obviously every M. Night Shyamalan movie, there's going to be discussion around the twist of the movie because there's usually one big twist towards the end. That's kind of what he's known for, what he started off doing back in the Sixth Sense days, and it's just been his thing ever since. So people have been discussing whether or not he may have showed too much in the trailer, and whether he may have spoiled the actual plot of the movie a little too much. And I don't think that's too much of an issue because I think the selling point, similar to what we discussed with Abigail, the selling point is Josh Hartnett as a crazy serial killer. And that's just kind of what you have to show in the trailer to get people in, because I think it'd just be a little bit too much to hide that, especially with how quickly things start to move in the movie. Like, you start to realize how fast things are moving for the character and how everything is just ramping up. It just takes 5 or 10 minutes before we see his first glimpse into him actually being the killer. So it's not, you're not hiding that much if you didn't show that in the trailer. I don't think it would be too effective if the twist was that he was the killer, because that's what brings a lot of people in. Because Josh Hartnett, he's been out of the limelight for 10 years up until recently. It feels like he's definitely been working steadily, but definitely hasn't been in anything major up until I would say Oppenheimer last year.
Yeah, he was in Wrath of Man as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well. That's 2021. So yeah, that's around the start of where he started his comeback to the mainstream. And I think it's great to see because he is definitely a talented actor, and this movie shows that. Just kind of the craziness that this performance needed. He kind of gave it his all, and I think it really worked. I think that is the selling point, is Josh Hartnett being it reminded me of Ted Bundy, a Ted Bundy-like serial killer, where he's kind of charming and looks like a normal dude, but he's just got a lot going on, and there's a lot of escaping and trickery that he does, which is very Bundy-like. So I think it was a very interesting concept, very interesting setting. I think towards the end is where the issues start to pile up for me. We can discuss that later, but there's just a few decisions that I didn't really agree with.
So I'm glad that you brought up Abigail as a reference to this movie, for them showing that Abigail is a vampire in the trailer. I was thinking the exact thing yesterday, the exact same thing yesterday, where I was like, okay. And I was recalling our previous review of Abigail and how people were saying, oh, well, Radio Silence showed too much in the trailer. They spoiled the movie, that's the big reveal. And that's not the big reveal. Much like for Trap, like you said, Josh Hartnett playing this serial killer, that's not a twist. That's far from a twist. It is a plot point. It is the plot of the movie that he is taking his daughter to this concert, and he finds out that they're using this concert as an excuse to trap this serial killer. And you find out that it's him because he acts so antsy throughout the movie. Like you said, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, it's him. Even if you didn't watch the trailer, which arguably you could probably have a little bit better of an experience if you didn't know the premise, but I don't think it takes away from the movie at all, because that's not the twist at all. It is the plot just driving forward, saying, hey, the questions of this movie, and I know I'm going all over the place, the two big questions of this movie, it's not that, oh, who's the serial killer? It's the first question is, does he get out? And the second question is, who tipped off the feds.
Yeah, there isn't one big twist like you would expect in Shyamalan. There's more just like a few different twists and turns throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. When it comes to the twist, there's no like one big twist, and I think that's what makes this movie so interesting. Because his previous film, it was Knock at the Cabin, which we both enjoyed. For the most part, I do remember us basking in that in that film quite a bit. And even his previous movie, To Knock at the Cabin Old, again, it wasn't my favorite, but I love the premise and I love the twist. That was a great twist. Trap is different, much like Knock at the Cabin, because Trap doesn't have that big twist. The first half of the movie, you are spending all this time with Josh Hartnett's daughter and him trying to find a way out, causing commotions left and right. I love the first half of this movie. I can't say it feels like two movies in one, but I will say when the second half came, it wasn't like bad. But I think I enjoyed the first part of the movie a little bit more. But there were parts in the second half of the movie that I also enjoyed. But I will say, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more into his psyche in the second half of, how he became this person. Why is he doing this? We get like a little bit of an explanation between him and a few other characters that he crossed paths with. But overall, we don't go too deep into his psyche, but I wish we would have. I think that would have been a really cool angle for the second half. But for what the second half was, it was still enjoyable. And that's where I guess you can call it the big twist, but it's really, it's like a mid twist. It's like a baby twist. It's not like oh my gosh, like I can't believe this person and that person and this happened. Like, no, it's just more of a reveal of finding out who tipped off the feds as to, hey, this person's going to be at this concert. This is a perfect opportunity to strike. But within the first half of the movie, I loved how Josh Hartnett's character was just causing all this commotion, and his dialect and his mannerisms of being a serial killer and trying to converse with like his daughter's friend's mom in like a normal way, or just anyone else that he ran into in this music venue, was so interesting. Because at first watch, for people who aren't like understanding what's going on, they may find the writing a little like hokey and whatnot, but like he's really just trying to keep it together.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect for the Shyamalan style of writing. Like that's always the complaint that comes up every movie. Like Shyamalan doesn't know how to write normal dialogue. Like everyone, even this movie already, people are complaining about it. But that's just his style. That's just his over-exaggerated dialogue style, and it really works here because, like you said, this is a serial killer trying to blend in and trying to act normal. So this is like kind of perfect for that, because he's trying to sound normal, but deep down there's some issues.
I just logged my letterbox review of this. I was like, it's a trap. Nice little Star Wars reference there. But yeah, for the writing for this movie, I didn't mind it at all. Dude, I was hooked line and sinks into this.
Yeah, I think it's because Josh Hartnett does such a good job. Like he's mentioned in interviews where it's kind of that thing where you don't want to root for him, but he is the main character. He's the quote unquote protagonist that we're watching throughout the movie, because we're seeing his point of view for everything. So it's kind of like you're kind of rooting for him at certain points just because he's so like conniving and like methodical throughout the first half. But then obviously he's a serial killer, so you're like, oh, he's a terrible person. What am I doing? Just kind of that back and forth.
Right. And with Ariel Donahue, who plays Josh Hartnett's daughter in this film, I think she did a great job. She was literally the perfect teenager. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Turning Red, where the teens or the preteens in that movie were just going wild over that boy bands, And with Salika in this role, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. What I found out is that yes, she is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, but she sang in all those songs that were happening during the concert. She wrote those like herself, like for this movie.
Yeah, she's actually a full-blown musician.
And I did not know that. I was like, that is so cool. And like a great way to incorporate, regardless if that was his daughter or not, I think that's a great way to incorporate that talent into the movie. I think that's pretty.
She's also
awesome.
Contributed songs for other works as well. She did. She was on the soundtrack for Servant. I've heard good things, but I haven't watched it yet. And then also she contributed a song for Old.
Did she really? Okay, I did not know that like whatsoever. Like that's it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like the second half of the movie, it wasn't terrible. It's just not as interesting as the first half. But that is when things start ramping up, and you see Josh Hartnett's character. His name is Cooper in the movie, and Ariel Donahue's name is Riley. Cooper throws like this crazy Hail Mary of a play to a certain character, and I was like, oh wow, like I didn't expect that. And also I did not expect to see Kid Cudi in this movie.
Yeah, very, very strange minor appearance, but it was funny.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, because I'm pretty sure, I think he's in the trailer. I was like, is that?
I think they teased him briefly.
Yeah, they teased him super, super briefly. That's
him and Russ are in this movie as other musical artists.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is true. That is true. So it's like it's normal to have like certain people like that, but again, I don't consider that a spoiler. And like you said, it was vaguely shown in the trailer, but yeah, like I've seen a lot of the discourse on Twitter and just online in general, where people were kind of like that, like shaming like Shyamalan for the whole nepotism thing, and I was like, I mean, does that? Like you said earlier, he backs all of his own movies. Like the guy can kind of do what he wants, and it's like, hey, like I thought my daughter was the best person for the role, or maybe she had to audition, maybe not, because he's M. Night always finds a way to appear in his movies in one way or another. So I don't know what it is about his writing.
I think the issue that comes up for me, it's probably my biggest issue for the movie, is I don't have any problem with him like putting her in the movie as like the star artist, like performing at the concert, because that's a perfect fit. I mean, she is a real musician. These are her real songs. It's a great idea to have her be at the center of the stage, actually performing. And that's what the whole movie is about. That's what it centers around. But I think the issue for me is towards that second half, that third act, where like he's asking a lot of her from the acting side, and I think that's where issues start to arise, because this is her first movie like as an actress, and you can kind of feel that, and kind of like the crux of the entire movie falls onto her shoulders at the end of it, and it's just like a lot to take on for a new actress, and that kind of, it just didn't feel right, and it kind of like lowered the movie a bit for me, especially towards the end, because yeah, like the entire plot of the movie like falls under her character, and it's just like I don't think I would have gone that far with it.
I agree. I actually agree with you there. I did not know this was like her. Well, going into the movie, I did not know this was like her first feature film. I was like, you can kind of tell. Not saying I'm no talent art like scouter or whatnot, but you can usually tell when it's someone's first role, and it's like I think M. Night is a great director, but it did feel a little hokey almost, I guess you could say. Like people always say that Jerry Seinfeld could never like act on his own show, and I was like, I always felt like that was kind of like part of the bit, but yeah,
it just felt kind of silly at the end, like because the stakes are supposed to be escalating, like things are supposed to be getting like crazier and crazier, but then you just kind of have her there, and it just doesn't feel authentic.
I agree. Yeah, like out of all the other actors, she's the least. I think that's a good way to put it.
And it's kind of funny because, without getting into too many details, there's a part towards the end where she does go off and kind of exits the movie for a bit, and then things actually do ramp up. You do feel the tension between Cooper and his wife, played by Alison Pill, who I thought did a great job. It was nice to have that like established actress to kind of even things out. Obviously, she was from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, among other things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that towards the end there, when it's just focused on those two, it definitely, you can feel the tensions rising a bit, and you can. Of course, there's the scene where M. Night has Josh take his shirt off and eat a pie, which was definitely done for a reason. I'm sure the ladies watching will definitely enjoy that part.
M. Night knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that was very intentional. There's nothing natural about eating pie with the shirt off.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or getting like, terribly just like attacked by the police in any way, shape, or form. But here's a bit of trivia here for you, Devin. While being distributed for this movie, this is Trap Trivia, I guess you could call it, Trap Trivia. This is not a spoiler, just a standard trivia fact. While being distributed by a major studio, Warner Brothers, Trap, the movie was allowed to resume filming under an interim agreement during the SAG-AFTRA strike, as M. Night Shyamalan independently finances his own films.
All of his movies are technically indie, despite being like distributed by. It's kind of interesting. He makes his own movies, and then he just kind of shops them around. Like, hey, Warner Brothers, you want this one? Sony, you want this one? Universal, you want this one? But yeah, they're technically all indie.
And he keeps making movies.
Yeah, it's very admirable. Like, even if you're not a fan of his movies, I think you just kind of have to respect it at this point. I know he's messed up along the way, obviously. Whenever he's been giving like the big blockbuster type of movies, it just hasn't gone well. But when he's doing his own thing, it's always interesting.
It works. Yeah. And I think this movie is one of his most interesting to date. Of course, with Knock at the Cabin is equally interesting because that was based off of a book. So he was adapting a book. And
Old
I don't
was
think
as
we've
well.
Old was as well.
Yeah, it was a graphic novel.
Okay, interesting. I did not know that at all. I don't know if we talked about that in our review, but I'm going to link our Knock at the Cabin and our Old review in the episode notes of this one, because I think those are the other two. Wait, we did Glass?
Yeah, we did do Glass.
Oh, no one needs to listen to that one. That was way back. Before we knew what we were doing. So it's gosh.
Yeah, Split was great. Unbreakable was great.
Yeah.
But then you get to Glass.
Signs.
And it's just
he is a great director, but not every great director is gonna have like banger after banger after banger. I mean, Martin Scorsese made The Irishman. I was like, okay. It wasn't for me, but not every great director out there has all aces, I guess you could say. There might be a few anomalies out there, but for the most part.
I also, speaking of The Irishman, I really enjoyed the runtime of this one. It was a nice hour 45.
Yeah.
Like, I think not too short, not too long.
So another piece of Trap trivia here. We kind of touched on this earlier, but this film is one of two films released in 2024 that M. Night Shyamalan produced involving his children. His own daughter, Ishana Shyamalan, like you mentioned earlier, she directed Watchers. So if you haven't seen Watchers, or if you have seen Watchers, send us a message either on Instagram and or Twitter and let us know what you thought about it, because we have not seen it yet. I believe I might be getting a Blu-ray copy from Warner Brothers because I do want to watch it, and I'm like, it just seems interesting. Like you said, we gotta support the Shyamalans here in any way that we can.
Support the Shyamalans.
Support the Shyamalans. Support. Support. Oh my gosh. Oh man, so Devin, I do have to ask you really quick, when it comes to this movie, do you think it would have, like, if you didn't know about the premise of this film, like if you didn't see any of the trailers, you just went into it completely blind, does that elevate the film for you, or would you still feel the same as you do right now?
I feel like, honestly, if I hadn't seen the trailers, it's kind of hard to put yourself in that mindset, but I feel like it might have maybe even lessened it a little bit, because like I mentioned before, you find out like 5 or 10 minutes in that he's a serial killer. So it wouldn't have been like some grand reveal. It would have been just like, oh, really? That's what they're doing? Okay, that was quick. Like, it wouldn't have felt very satisfying.
That is an interesting take. And now that you mention that does actually make a lot of sense. I will say there is a bit of trapception going on here for the last bit of trap trivia. So about 10 minutes into this movie, as a SWAT car or SWAT cars are approaching on the road, there is a billboard visible in the background advertising the movie The Watchers 2024.
Gotta support the Shyamalan.
Support the Shyamalan. That I see. I didn't even realize that. See, now I want to go back and watch it again just to see if I can capture that, or maybe I'll just wait till it hits streaming.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, as a character, do you prefer Jamie from Trap? He was the merch salesman guy that was very funny. Also, there's a mid-credit scene for him, which was great.
There is.
Yes. Do you prefer Jamie or Mid-Sized Sedan from Old? Two great characters in their own right.
Oh, I forgot about Mid-Sized Sedan.
You can't forget Mid-Sized Sedan.
Oh man. I might have to go with Jamie and Trap.
Yeah, Jamie feels a little more personable. It feels like you get to know him a little better.
I'm glad he got that post-credit limelight there. That was awesome. I love Jamie. That was really good. It definitely stick around for
that one. Definitely got some laughs.
You'll know exactly what we're talking about. Honestly, my theater was just eating up this movie.
Yeah, there was some loud like cackling throughout. Like some of the line delivery is just like it just comes off so funny.
It's exactly. It's like it's like, yeah, this is hokey or cheesy dialogue. If you're just like writing the run of the mill type of sitcom almost, but it works. I don't know what at least for me, it works.
Like, yeah, of course you could play it safe and like write just your basic cat and mouse serial killer movie, but yeah, that's what makes M. Night different.
Exactly. And I will say, outside of the issues that we've had, I do wish we would have gotten a little bit more backstory of the leader of the SWATs.
Yeah, you only really see like her back or like her shadow. Like you never really get introduced to her in any way.
Like she knows what she's doing. Like she's like, we got this guy. Like he ain't going nowhere.
I honestly thought she was going to be involved in like a big twist, but that didn't end up happening.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that off air, because I had a few things where I thought certain things were going to happen, but it didn't. But like, especially the very end of the movie, everyone started laughing, but it wasn't a bad laugh. It was like, wow, kind of a wow reaction kind of thing. And honestly, I want to see another one.
I mean, it's you could with that ending.
Yeah, that is very true. It's very rare outside of a few movies where M. Night does sequels. So, will we get a sequel? I don't know. I wouldn't say.
I want the Split guy and the Trap guy to meet each other. Imagine that scene.
The Shaman universe. The Shamaverse. That would actually be pretty cool. Yeah, the guy from Split. Bring him back.
McAvoy versus Hartnett.
McAvoy versus, yeah. Oh, dude, can you imagine? Like 1,000%. Let's do it. Hey, Shyamalan's done it before, and it's like he did it in Glass. He had Bruce Willis. He had
Samuel Jackson,
and
McAvoy.
He had James McAvoy, all in one movie, and like they were already established actors. So it's like Shyamalan's got bank, man. He's got bank. But is there anything else you wanted to mention before we dive into our final thoughts or ratings? If not, we can just get into our final thoughts and ratings right now.
Yeah, final thoughts. I think overall I was entertained throughout. It wasn't like edge of my seat, I can't believe this is happening, but it was just like, oh, this is fun. Like, I'm enjoying this, and I think it's a nice ride. There wasn't a huge twist like everyone might have expected or was hoping for, but I think there's some nice turns along the way. I do disagree with some of the decisions in the final act that kind of cheapened it a bit for me. But overall, I was entertained. I think it's a fun time at the movies. And for that, I'd probably give it like a 68 overall. Like, the ending really lowered it by quite a bit for me, because just the final act in general, and maybe not the ending, but yeah, the last 30 minutes or so, just there's some decisions that just didn't really hit, and I think that lowers it a bit. But overall, it was a fun time.
I couldn't agree more. For my review or my final thoughts and ratings, I will say that I feel like this movie deserves, obviously it's a solid like 70 out of 100, just like full stop, because it got me interested into this world, or at least the situation of which Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett, was in, and it did its job overall. I do think the second half of the movie, or at least the final act, can get a bit rocky sometimes, but I think it actually sticks the landing at the very end. Aside from the acting chops of his daughter, it's like I can't criticize her too much, because like it's like her first role ever, so it's like I'm always going to give people grace. I'm going to give her a little bit of grace, but overall it still just didn't work as well as we were hoping, and I didn't expect her character to be involved as much in the movie as she was, which was actually pretty welcoming altogether. But I say this is like one of those movies that, like, it's a great time, it's a good time, it's entertaining, but it always had the potential to be something a little bit more, something better, especially when it came to the second half. But overall, I still love it. Like, I would show this to anyone. I know my mom will definitely be rushing to the theater because she loves M. Night. There's only one movie I have ever like truly loathed from M. Night Shyamalan, and that is the Avatar: The Last Airbender live action movie. But I mean, heck, the live action series, I mean, it's better, but like, it's got its own pile of issues. But I digress. With all that said, Devin gave this film a 68 out of 100, and I'm giving it a 70 out of 100, which means our official podcast score is a 69.5 out of 100. That is the median between both of our scores. And with all that said, that does conclude today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. That includes Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And now let's take a sneak peek at our new review releases with episodes such as Batman Caped Crusader Season 1 review. That is a episode that I covered with our friend of the show, Mike, over at Collider. That was a lot of fun. Devin and I also covered Deadpool and Wolverine and the new Twisters movie. So definitely go out and check those out on our podcast. And as I mentioned before, in this review, I will be leaving a link to our previous Shyamalan reviews and the episode notes of this one, so you guys can kind of take a gander at our thoughts on those films. And for upcoming releases here on the show, we're going to be covering movies such as Borderlands, Alien, Romulus, and hopefully Blink Twice, because that looks pretty interesting. And of course, I'm hoping we might do we go out with Umbrella Academy season 4 with a bang? That's the real question.
Yeah, I've seen people have started to get some screeners for that. So
yeah, definitely would love to cover that. It's, you know, it's sailing off into the sunset type situation. Because, man, that's been a crazy, crazy ride. But I'm so happy that they're able to finish that series. But with all that said, again, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and stay connected with us by following us on Twitter for the latest updates. That was Devin, and I'm Christian, signing off. And remember, life is like a movie, so go out there, make it a bonus.
peace.